CNN Report.
We're your hosts, Kasha
And Andrea.
Today's report,
The Chicano Youth Movement.
so who are the Chicano youth group?
The Chicano youth movement first started when Mexican immigrants had children in the United States. Their children would be called Chicano because since they weren't born in Mexico, they aren't Mexican. But because they originate from Mexico but are born in the U.S., they weren't considered American either.
Pretty soon they were singled out by people in the U.S. and in Mexico. To protect themselves from the discrimination, they created groups and organizations. From these organizations, they were able to create the Chicano movement. From this movement, they started protests, many court cases, and the rights granted to Mexican Americans. The Chicano group also mirrored the Black Panthers in militancy.
The main goal of the Chicano youth movement was achieving Mexican American empowerment and rights. Other goals included restoral of land, rights for farm workers, voting rights, and educational and laborious reforms. Later on, the birth of the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund had an overall goal of protecting the civil rights of Hispanics.
The students walked out during classes, they marched to fight for their rights, and they had several sit-ins. Many walkouts happened in LA, Denver, and Houston. From the late 1960s until 1978, peaceful protests were held to fight for Mexican American empowerment and rights.
The Chicano youth movement faced many struggles. These struggles were unionization for farm workers, racism, and problems with the U.S. Supreme Court when they declared it unlawful to keep students who couldn't speak English in schools. The spiritual plan of Aslan also stated many struggles of the Chicano youth movement. This document was a manifest that read, "We conclude that social, economic, cultural, and political independence is not the only road to total liberation from oppression, exploitation, and racism. Our struggle then must be for control of our barrios, campos, pueblos, lands, and our economy, our culture, and political life."
In 1947, the Mendez versus Westminster Supreme Court case deemed that segregating children with Mexican and Latin descent was unconstitutional. In 1954, Hernandez versus Texas court case declared that Mexican Americans and other historically subordinated groups in the U.S. were entitled to equal protection under the 14th Amendment. Chicano women also took important steps in getting rid of compulsory sterilization to women that couldn't speak English. They were involved in the 1975 case of Madrigal versus Quilligan.
The Chicano group contributed to much of our society politically, segregationally, legally, and culturally. A segregational contribution that the Chicano group made was this. The Chicano group organized walkouts, sit-ins, and marches to make Congress pass the Equal Opportunity Act of 1974, which caused the enforcement of more bilingual education programs in public schools. Legally, the Chicano group contributed greatly to the 14th Amendment, which guaranteed protection to all racial groups during the Hernandez versus Texas court case.
The Chicano movement has also generated a Chicano cultural renaissance and has contributed to a broader Hispanic cultural renaissance in the United States. Art, music, literature, theater, and other forms of expression have flourished. Spanish language and bilingual media, including television and radio stations, newspapers, magazines, and motion pictures, have expanded in number and impact.
Wow, the Chicano youth group really contributed to the U.S.'s culture.
That's right. The Chicano Youth Movement was successful in achieving their goals and rights as Mexican Americans. Their legacy left behind culture in our nation. Through all parts of their fight for justice, they continue to be peaceful and effective. Thanks for watching the CNN Report, the Chicano Youth Movement.
And this is Kasha and Andrea signing out.